Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our wonderful Tales of Olympus, the podcast where we bring Greek mythology to life. And before we begin, I'd like to say a special thank you for all of you that subscribed to my YouTube channel, Ariel. Yeah, I recently got 10 subscribers, and I know it's not too much like Mr. Beast or Stokes Twins or something, but I still want to say thank you. That's a start. And I know I haven't updated for a while, but tonight a new episode is coming out, I promise. And we're not just doing like normal, like my voice, and just make the boring video of just the background moves and my voice goes on. That's too boring. So I've decided I'll do something like real YouTubers do. I won't say anything right now because it's gotta be a surprise. So, anyways, let's begin. Today's episode is called "The Day the Sun Vanished: Helios versus Apollo," and trust me, it's gonna be fire. So let me ask you something. When you think of the Greek sun god, who do you picture? If you said Apollo, no, if you thought of Apollo, you're not wrong. But you're not totally right either. Because the original Greek sun god wasn't Apollo at all. It was a powerful titan named Helios. That's right. Before Apollo ever touched the sun, Helios was already riding across the sky every single day in his golden chariot, pulled by 4 fire-breathing horses. The Greeks believed that Helios rose each morning from the eastern edge of the world, rode across the sky, and set in the west, sailing back home in a golden cup through the ocean at night. Helios wasn't just a glowing light. He watched everything. That's why in some stories, the gods used him as a witness. He was the only one who saw what Hades did to Persephone. If you want to know the story of Hades and Persephone and Demeter, go check out our episode from the last few times. Helios' name literally means sun. Well, he was handsome, shining, and his head glowed like a crown of fire. But if Helios was the original sun god, why did Apollo get all the attention later? Well, it sounds like someone stole the spotlight. And in case if you're wondering why we're doing Apollo in 2 episodes straight, is because I've got too many ideas and I'm still working it out. So, I already planned the Apollo episodes, but I haven't finished planning the others. So, no, actually I finished, but I thought it would be better because last time you would remember what happened to Apollo. And so today we're just discussing more Apollo. Yeah, next time I promise it's not Apollo. So anyways, let's go to the next part of the story. So how did Apollo, the god of music, archery, and poetry, suddenly become the sun god? Let's rewind a bit. In the earliest Greek myths, Helios was the clear driver of the sun chariot. But over time, especially during the classical period, things started to shift. Apollo became more and more popular. He was good-looking, talented, poetic, basically the celebrity of Mount Olympus. The Greeks loved to merge their gods' powers. And because Apollo was already connected with light, truth, and brightness, people started to say, hey, Apollo's kind of like a sun. Let's give him the sun too. So the idea of Apollo driving the sun chariot was becoming more and more common, even though originally that was Helios' job. This switch wasn't instant. It happens over hundreds of years. By the time of the Roman Empire, many people had forgotten about Helios completely. Now, when you read books or watch shows, you always see Apollo as the sun god. But maybe mythology nerds like us, no, not nerds, but mythology experts like us, we would remember Helios. And there's more drama, because Helios had a son, and Apollo's name got tangled in that too. Before we continue, some of you might not understand what I mean by classical period. Classical period is a time from around 480 BCE to 323 BCE, and is one of the most famous and powerful times in ancient Greece. And here's what makes the classical period so special. What happened during the classical period? Athens became super powerful, and so did Sparta. The Parthenon, Athena's temple, was built in Athens. Greek drama, science, and art reached their peak. Philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle lived during this time, and the myths we know today were often written down or retold in new ways. So, what does that mean for Apollo and Helios? Before the classical period, people mostly believed Helios was the sun god. But during the classical period, people started loving Apollo so much that they said, hey, he's already the god of light, so maybe he drives the sun too. So the classical period is when Apollo's legend grew bigger, and Helios started to fade into the background. So let's go next part. I hope I explained that perfectly. Well, no, not perfectly. Nothing is perfect, but I hope you understand it. So last I talked about Helios' son. Maybe you already know him, maybe you do not. It's Phaethon. Phaethon and the Flaming Disaster. Okay, now let's talk about Phaethon, the son of Helios, and the reason the earth almost burned down. Wait, let me just clarify this for you. Some of you may be wondering how you spell Phaethon. It's Phaethon. Yeah, just to make it clear. So anyways, one day Phaethon wanted to prove to everyone that Helios was really his dad, because when he told his friends, they didn't believe him. So he went to Helios and said, Father, give me proof. Let me drive your son's chariot, just for one day. Helios said, No, no, no. It's too dangerous. Even the gods can't control these horses. But Phaethon begged and begged and begged, and Helios finally said yes. And that was a big mistake. As soon as Phaethon grabbed the reins, the fire-breathing horses went wild. They flew too high, and the earth froze. Then too low, the earth caught on fire. Volcanoes exploded. Forests burned. The Nile River dried up. People were screaming the world was ending. So Zeus did the only thing he could. He struck Phaethon with a thunderbolt. Phaethon fell from the sky, and then the sun's chariot crashed. That's why people say, see, the sun must be dangerous. Only a true god can control it. This story makes people think about the power of the sun, and maybe that's why Apollo, the god of control, reason, and light, slowly became the new driver. But even if Helios wasn't in charge anymore, his name still lives on, especially in science. Because have you ever heard of the word helium? That comes from Helios. So let's go to the next part. And of course, if there's anything in this episode that you don't understand about, feel free to comment or email me. I'll definitely reply if I have time. And I mostly have time because I'm on summer vacation. So yeah, let's go to part 4, and we haven't talked about Percy Jackson for a very long time, so now let's jump into the Percy Jackson universe. In the books, Apollo is definitely the sun god. He's a god of archery, healing, music, and yep, he drives the sun chariot all over again. And in the book The Titan's Curse, Apollo literally pulls up in a shiny red convertible that glows like the sun. No, it's not a convertible. I think it's a bus. Yeah, it's definitely a bus. And in the Trials of Apollo, he becomes a mortal teenager named Lester Papadopoulos, but still remembers being in charge of the sun. So, what happened to Helios? In the Titan's Curse, Artemis says Helios is gone. She says Apollo took over the sun centuries ago. And that matches the myths we talked about. In real life, Apollo slowly became the new sun god after Helios faded away. But if you're an expert like me, you'll know the truth. Helios was first, Apollo came later, and the sun is still super dangerous. And whether it's Helios or Apollo in charge, you better not ask to drive their chariot. And I think that's all we have for today. Next time, it might be something about Dionysus, Hera, or maybe even some more heroes and monsters. We should get talking about monsters, because we haven't done any monster episodes yet. Okay, so what did we learn today? The truth is, Greek mythology isn't always simple. Stories change, gods change, and sometimes one god fades away while another rises to fame. Helios was once the great light of the sky, the all-seeing titan whose chariot set the world on fire. But as time passed, Apollo became the star. People loved him for his music, his beauty, and his golden light. They gave him the sun, and slowly the name Helios was whispered less and less. And that's why mythology is so cool. It teaches us not just about gods and monsters, but also how stories evolve, how people change what they believe, and how legends live on in new ways. And whether you imagine Helios thundering across the sky in a chariot of flame, or Apollo cruising through the clouds in a shining sun car, one thing's for sure. The sun may rise and fall every day, but it will never disappear. And thank you for listening to Tales of Olympus. I'm Ariel, I'm 10 years old, and I will be back next time with another epic story from Greek mythology. Until then, keep looking up at the sky and remember, the gods are always watching. And go check out my Reddit part. My username is called immediate underline win underline and what was it? It was who am I don't even know who am I anymore. I'm just kidding. It's immediate underline win underline 4982. Yeah, I create a new series called Demigod Dares where there's a poll and you get to choose a would you rather question. And it's really fun. We just got like about 100 votes and almost 2K views. So, I'm Ariel, I'm 10 years old, and I will see you next episode. Woo!